Steve is just coming back from overseas. And Steve, since you left, it seems like the country turned into a crap show. Not that it wasn't already, but welcome back.
It's great to be back, but I must tell you, the roads in Europe, as bad as some of these things, they actually pave roads over there, not the ones you drive on. They actually have trains that always run on time. I took a Eurail pass and went to
data connection
13 countries in 26 days. So, and I rode the rails all around Europe with my wife, Kelly, and my 16-year-old Stephen Laffey Jr., who's looking at graduate school. So it was always great. It's great to be back, though. There's not, I mean, I love America, obviously, and I look forward to coming back. But yeah, let's go. Things just almost exactly as I said. But go ahead, Joe Biden. And
yeah, first things first, let's talk about Joe Biden. Obviously, you've been talking about this quite a few times on the program in general, that you thought that Joe Biden was going to drop out. Obviously, the debate came, it went. Joe Biden seemed like he was going to stay in the race. He kept saying, I'm in it to win it. And then all of a sudden he's pushed out. What were you seeing as a person that was in the political game and still is?
I said 3 years ago, over 3 years ago, he would never, ever make it to the finals. And I said it would happen in late March. I thought that would be the best time. But you know what? The Democrats had a better plan. So, and I said before the debate that it would be a total disaster for Joe Biden. Remember, Trump agreed to every term. And I said, when they turn off the mics, I said it to you, when they turn off the mics, Trump will appear to be semi-normal, and Joe Biden can't keep his mind together for an hour and a half. He can't keep it for 3 minutes. So there was one quote that we talked about within the whole thing that ended the whole thing for Joe Biden. And no one will talk about it. He referred to fathers and cousins and people just raping everybody they saw who were relatives. It was the most bizarre thing to answer immigration. It was over right then. He was out of the race, but they had to do. And so Biden, as I told you by text, it was a bad pick. I was leaving. I'm sorry, JD Vance was a bad pick by Trump. He just couldn't do the normal thing. In other words, vice presidential picks are about a couple of things. Throughout history, our history, taking a state you might not take because maybe that person gets 3% more. Okay, a critical state, a critical region, a very popular person, or someone who buttresses what you're weak at. So in the Republican Party, you have these three things that keep people, they're concentric circles that don't have to overlap. What are they? Pro-life. People like my mom, doesn't care about anything else. City council race, Cranston, Rhode Island, who's pro-life? That's one. Strong national defense. Those people under Trump are, in this candidacy, are out, but appointing a vice president who believed in strong national defense, people like me would be like, okay, well, that guy's going to put some pressure on Trump to do strong national defense. And then fiscal conservatives. There's three. JD Vance is pro-life. Mm-hmm. After that, he's a walking, talking disaster. He's the only guy I think he could pick that reduces votes. Remember, his comments are now all public, and Trump didn't do a big background, but the comments, for example, not about the women who don't have children, it's totally crazy. He thinks that people who have more children should get more votes.
Yeah.
These are so off the rails that when the ads keep coming by the Democrats, so the switcheroo, the double reel that we would say in Rhode Island, they double reeled him. Smarter than me. They waited till he picked the wrong guy, two white guys, right? So a man with no executive experience, right? And then they came back with replacing Biden with Harris, who now does the whole age thing. And people who don't pay attention in the middle. Remember, we're only talking about spending $1 billion on a campaign for the 5 to 7% of the people in 7 states who don't pay attention, who are truly independent. The other money's all been decided, right? They all know who they're going to vote for. 7 or 8 states. And all of that so far benefits Harris. Now, I'm not saying she's going to win. I don't know what's going to happen. But if Trump just keeps calling her names and says she might not be black, this is going to turn into a disaster for the guy. He has the whole thing locked up, except he's blowing it now.
Yeah.
Harris hasn't announced a vice presidential candidate. If she goes with one of three people, the governor of Kentucky, who I think is by far the best pick because he's actually fairly conservative. He's in Kentucky, a Democrat winning in a southern state, a white male. The governor of Pennsylvania, swing state, blah, blah, blah. Very popular guy. By the way, these people aren't my favorite people in life, but for her, or an astronaut from Arizona, then she buttresses her ticket by being this far left-wing California Democrat. She campaigns with someone who's a white male who appears to be semi-normal. Actually, all three will appear to be normal. They will appear to be normal, and they will say normal things. And what is she doing? She's saying doesn't want to ban fracking anymore. She's saying I'm changing my mind on things that she hasn't changed her mind at all. But she's saying things, if she says it for 3 months, there are people be like, well, that's not so bad. She changed her mind. People don't think like me. People don't say she's never changing her mind. She's just saying that. They say to themselves, oh, so she'll do that. If she does that, they could win. So we're talking about Trump, who thought he had a 49 state 1972 election, and he thought the candidate was worse than the man who had shock treatment, right? Who had to be replaced, right? Eagleton had to be replaced by Sergeant Shriver. He thought he had the race and made the decision too quickly. There was no reason for him to choose a vice president until after Biden got out of the race, or force it along till he couldn't get out of the race. It's just terrible strategy, Rob. This has been terrible strategy by the former president of the United States, Trump, who now is giving up what was a certain victory to a maybe defeat. I don't know what's going to happen, but a maybe defeat.
Just to go back to the Vance pick.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with you. It was a lot of stupid comments. I get what he was trying to say, that we should be trying to have more kids. The liberals are trying to say, Steve, that he says he wants more white kids. That's total BS. He's married to an Indian woman.
Right.
I mean, come on.
He's not saying that at all. But when people like you, who are really smart, people say he's trying to say, it doesn't matter what he's trying to say. In politics, we have the quotes in the audio. People with more children. Now, I got 6. I would benefit. People with more children should have more votes. Nobody thinks that's okay. Like,
right. Yeah, I agree.
That's outside 2 standard deviations. Don't tell people who are childless that there are people childless for lots of reasons.
Right. Some people can't have kids.
They
Some
can't
people
have
don't
children.
want to have kids. Yeah.
I mean, I have a daughter with cancer who will never have children.
Yeah.
These things are tragic sometimes rather than I don't want to have children, right? A proper phrasing would have been, when he was careful of what he said, and you won't find a tape from me like that, we ought to encourage people to have more children. A better way to successful life is to get married first, have children after, stay married, keep your job. And I love children. I have 6. I don't know how many people you want to have, but I'm blessed to have 6, and I wish I had 10. These are things that I have said 100 million times, to be hyperbolish, that'll never come back to haunt me. But he has a lot of things like this that are, of course, he has all the text message with his transgender buddy who let him loose about how much he hates Trump. So what we have in the vice president candidate is a man just like Trump, who was pro-choice and now he's pro-life, and he had his Trump line made in China when he said we shouldn't be doing stuff with China. He just doesn't care. So in J.D. Vance, we have a clone with a beard of the President Trump, a man who doesn't really care what he says and will say different things and hopes, which is partially true, that the electoral college people voting don't really know or care what he says.
Look, and I agree with you, Steve, but isn't the objective by Trump, and I'm not a Trump guy either, but just to kind of stand up for him at this point, the guy was a military veteran. He served in Iraq. He's done more than this country, and he said this on the stump. I give him credit. He did do a little small stump speech, said he's done more for this country than Kamala Harris. Trump has done more building a business, whether we agree that that is true or not. It is what it is. And then you bring J.D. Vance for the white working class votes. You're getting Michigan, Wisconsin, and also maybe Minnesota you pick up. Pennsylvania, you're looking to seal the deal with those three states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Maybe you pick up Michigan with that. Maybe that was just the Trump ticket, was to just pick up those three states again, win them narrowly, and just call it a game. If you win Nevada because of the Hispanic vote, okay. If you win Arizona because of the Hispanic vote, okay. But we know we're going to win North Carolina, Georgia, probably again, let's be honest, and Florida. You're just going to seal up 3 out of those 5 states.
Well, I would disagree with the fact that J.D. Vance adds any votes anywhere. Trump has those votes. Those
True.
people coming out for Trump. What he needed was someone to add votes in one of those 3 categories somewhere else. And he didn't do it. And he added someone who, despite what you're saying is true, we thank him for his service. He can speak about the military more credibly.
And he grew up in a bad background. He rose above it. Yale Law School. These all, I feel like, stories. Even though he's not black, you can kind of go into these,
It's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate he has so many other comments that these things are in the background and will remain in the background. My point is he adds no extra votes. Trump had those votes. There's no extra. And I think he subtracts votes and among the ones that truly matter. The undecided 5 to 7% of the vote in 7 or 8 states. He subtracts a working class mom or a mom, suburban mom who doesn't know how they're going to vote is now hearing not about his military record. Now we're hearing that people who are childless, which represents X% of those people, that they are, and he says a bad name about it. They're going to play that up all the time. So he needed someone that added votes. For example, Tim Scott, as much as I detest the fact that he is a terrible, and has not done anything.
Hey, listen, Steve, he just got married yesterday. It was a big deal.
Yeah, great. Okay, wait till 59. Great. But I'm just saying he would have added votes.
Yeah.
He would have added votes.
Honestly, the best selection probably would have been somebody like a Glenn Youngkin, one in Virginia, one that white suburban mom vote that you're talking about. And let's be realistic.
Yes.
It's the white suburban mom, not the black, not the Hispanic. Right. It's the white suburban mom vote.
I would predict that Glenn Youngkin wouldn't have taken the job. But yes, he would have been the best pick. I think the best pick.
Yeah. Even Burgum, even though I kind of think he's a schmuck, I think he would have been okay because he's dry, even though he's dry as a bone. Yes. You know what I mean? But again, as you stated,
he would have both those people would have represented to someone like me who won't vote for Trump, but the fiscal conservative nature of saying, you know what? All right, that guy's going to at least try to keep Trump in line Trump has already said, what is he saying already? We're not going to tax people who pay tips. Okay, thanks so much. We're not going to tax Social Security. He's just now cutting, slicing, and dicing to get more votes. None of this is going to happen. It's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing. The deficit is so big, as you know it.
Yeah. We're not going to. I want to get into that in a second, Steve. But since we're staying on Trump for just a second, you were away again for the assassination attempt. Obviously, horrific. There's a lot of liberals that are saying that it didn't happen. It was a false flag, total garbage. I mean, there was a man that died. There was 2
I haven't heard anybody say that, but obviously
it's true. It's out there, Steve, on Twitter. They've done man on the street around California, around different states in the country. There are liberals out there saying it was false flag. It was fake. Trump did it to get votes. And it is there. It is very. I'll tell you what, Steve, though, it is very suspect that the liberal media is not talking about that assassination attempt.
Oh, no, they will never talk about it. It is obviously the greatest embarrassment. There's couple things about this assassination attempt. One, praise God that he was not killed.
That would have been a civil war. You agree? If that happened.
No, not a civil war, but yes, it would have been tragic, and it would have been. But here's what I do say.
Okay.
The head of the Secret Service resigned. We will find out that they just didn't care. In other words, there was all this stuff. Listen, folks, when more than 5 people know about something, everybody knows. So the stuff where it's always like a conspiracy theory, that didn't happen. What did happen is that Joe Biden, President Biden, cannot run a lemonade stand. He couldn't get out of Afghanistan without killing 13 Americans. He is a walking, talking disaster. They did go into Ukraine. Evil Putin did because of Afghanistan in many ways. I'm surprised in the next 6 months if they don't go, China doesn't go in Taiwan. Why not? Just do it. Get going. I mean, that's what I would say if I was an evil dictator running the country. But the Secret Service and every single person Biden has appointed, from a man in a dress that I saw on TV a couple of years ago to the head of the Secret Service, have no business in their job. That lady is an embarrassment, and whoever was doing that. Now, I agree with the new person coming in saying, I'm not firing someone just because you said you want me to fire. I'm doing an investigation. But heads need to roll. There's nothing you can do about Joe Biden. This is why he had to get out of the race. See, Harris has no taint. She didn't hire these people. So now there's nothing about her in the Secret Service. For example, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, as I told you from the very beginning, going nowhere, a crazy man, not going to get on the ballot in all the states. I was right.
Yeah.
I'm generally right about all this stuff. So, but he asked for Secret Service and didn't get it. If I were president and the son and the nephew of two giant American politicians and great leaders who were assassinated, wanted Secret Service protection, I don't care if he's running for dog catcher in Cranston, Rhode Island. If he wanted 10 people, I would have sent 20. The same thing with Trump is found out too. Trump wanted more. They said no. If Trump had asked me, a Democratic president, he wanted 100 Secret Service, I'm sending in 300. It's never going to be on my ass that I didn't protect a presidential candidate or someone named Kennedy. So these things are so out of how does Biden's people not know this? This is easy stuff. I go back to even being a little old mayor of Cranston, Rhode Island, and talking to you about things like, hey, you went to Cranston recently. There are hills there. I dropped straight salt on the hills. I don't care if it eroded the street the next day. Nobody was going to slip down a street in my city and get in an accident and call me on the phone. Never happened. Never was going to happen. I didn't put dirt on those hills coming up Elmwood Avenue. I threw, and the union didn't want to do it. I'm like, get a truck full of salt. These are the hills. It's never coming back to me. This is like minor stuff that you would just do. Biden doesn't know how to do it. So whether it's the Secretary of Transportation, Janet Yellen, who clearly has dementia as a Secretary Treasurer, a man named Buttigieg, who couldn't run, South Bend, Indiana. They hate him. They hate him there. They would stone him when he walked back in. He's so unpopular. He can't run anything. He took 3 months out of work. He's not a woman. He's married to a man. Nobody actually had the baby come out of the womb, they took 3 months out of work. These people are so removed from reality, so horrific, and so lazy. The Secretary of Commerce is the former governor of Rhode Island. What is she doing about the deficit? It seems like Janet Yellen does her job. These people are so unqualified that we have to replace them. I think in Trump's second term, he would have way more talented people than some of the clowns. He had talented people. Pompeo's not a joke, Bolton wasn't a joke. William Barr is the most talented attorney general we've seen in years. So Trump he couldn't keep people because of the way he behaves. But it's night and day, even from Trump to the Democratic administration.
So with Trump, again, Harris is supposedly picking up steam. And I don't know if you remember this. I'm sure you do. When Harris ran in 2020, and this is factual for everybody listening, look it up. She didn't get past Iowa, did not make it to the Iowa caucuses. Bernie Sanders had 16% of the black vote. Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas had 8% of the black vote. Kamala Harris had 1% of the vote. Yeah. So how does a person that's hated, that's the border czar, letting everybody in, rise above this, tying Donald Trump? Some polls put her ahead. Yeah. Some poll, and then she's raising over $310 million within a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. 177,000 volunteers, they're saying now, just added to this campaign. Yeah. Is this just some kind of fantasy and a charade, Steve, or is something happening here?
Here's what's happening. Every election, is about the future. Donald Trump is talking about the past, the 2020 election, whether she's black, what she said 20 years ago. Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, is smart enough to say it's basically, without saying hope and change of Obama, she's talking about the future. All elections are decided about when it, not a race in California in a, massively Democratic, but close elections are decided about who grabs the future. And Vice President Harris, because believe me, I truly believe that in the end, it's Obama, who's very smart politically, waited. And then he told Joe Biden to get his ass out of the race.
Yeah.
And he did. It's all about Obama. The only former president that I can name that stayed in Washington, D.C. to run the whole show from behind the scenes is Barack Obama. He runs everything, in my opinion. He runs it. So he did this. And what did he tell Kamala Harris? This is your playbook. It's about the future. It's about our children. What does Kamala Harris say all the time? She stole my line, which is a line that President Trump should have taken. Look, go to my website, stevelaffey.com. She doesn't say it exactly as well as I said it, to be less than humble. We're going to unite the country over restoring the middle class. But she is saying she wants to restore the middle class. Now, her way of restoring the middle class is send people checks. It's not about better jobs. It's not about trade. It's just about sending you checks when you checks and more checks. So, but the message about the middle class combined with the future is the winning message. It's the winning message. If Trump continues to talk about the 2020 election combined with whatever, and not about, I mean, if I was with President Trump, I'd be like, all right, so Mr. President, listen, here's what we're going to do. Forget about everything. Just get up and for once in your life say, you know what? I care about your kids. What I was doing for all communities, including the Black community, I'm going to continue and make even better. I'm going to make sure wages, which were rising faster than inflation, and now we have graphs with me. I'm going to have wages rise higher than inflation again. So in the future, you can afford a home. In the future, just anything, just keep translating it, and he would win. In 2020, my best friend from nursery school called me the day after the election and said, and I can't say exactly what he said, but a guy I went to nursery school with and sat next to for 12 years, said, he said, laugh. Most people call me Mary. Laugh. If he could have just avoided being a complete dupe bag,
yeah,
he would have won. If he could have been, he would have won. I said, yes. But he can't because he has a disease called narcissism. He can't. And that's why he could lose.
Isn't the objective you just go up there, pound the economy every 10 seconds?
Every day. Right now.
Talk about the border. Talk about inflation. Talk about the interest rate. I mean, this stuff is very self-explanatory. Gas prices. These are regular working people, what they think about every day. Taxes. I mean, it's easy. And it just, even like you said about Russia, about Afghanistan. I mean, this is the easiest playbook. She was in the administration. She said all these weird things. You just pull them out. I mean, it's easy pickings of how the stupid stuff she says.
He just refuses to do this, Rob. For example, if he's good with numbers, he hasn't lost anything.
But he ran against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is a better politician than Kamala Harris, but it's almost the same playbook that you could run.
Yes. And all he has to do on stuff like that is make it so that people understand. For example, he could say to everybody, he has to have people in the crowd. He points out, hey, Jimmy, how much money do you make? 100 grand. Wow. In the last 4 years, that meant you've lost $14,000 under the Biden administration. You went from 100 to 106 on average, but you had to make 120. When I was president, when you made 100 over the 4 years, you actually made inflation was up by 2% per year. I'm just making this up. You went to 115. You made a net 7 grand under me and lost 14 under him. When I'm president, I'm going to make sure you make another extra 7 grand. Everybody just if it's 50
would get
grand,
fired up. They'd eat that up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, this is easy pickings.
Jimmy, Sarah over there, and then Sarah she's already knows she's going to be called on. I make
Yeah.
50 grand. 50. He just cuts the numbers in half and says the same thing. You lost, he would say, you lost $7,000 under president. They're not going to give it back to you, Sarah. He just yells it to the crowd. 200, he just doubles it. So everybody gets this, right? Everybody knows this intuitively. That's why they hate inflation. This is why people hate inflation. Their wages don't keep up. This is why if you ask Americans, would you rather have a 1% increase in unemployment rate from 4 to 5 or a 1% increase in inflation? They all say I want an 1% increase in unemployment. They're only going to be 1% chance it's them. But when it's inflation, it's all of them, right? So he can even say things like eggs. I'm getting that. When I'm president, eggs will be $2 a dozen, not $3, whatever. A gallon of milk was $2.39. And now it's $3.99. I got a gallon with me. He could say things. I just went to Kroger. I mean, these are regular man things that if I was running, this is what I did running for mayor. It was very easy. We had a guy who always talked about the past, Aaron Garabedian, and I was relatively young. And I just talked about the future. And at one point, if he just kept doing that, he could frustrate Mrs. Harris because then she would say something like what Aaron Garabedian said to me. She would just retort and say something so stupid and try to say something about me or about President Trump that, and he could just say something like, go back to the hearings of 1955. At long last, sir, have you no shame? At long last, ma'am, have you no shame? I'm trying to get this country back together again like it was when I ran it. And you're talking about what? An affair? A woman? Whatever. He won't do. The whole problem is he won't. I'm telling you things that are easy.
And he's got the mind for this. He was a TV guy.
He does. You're fired. It was funny. So he simply can't do it because of his disease. He's never done it. He won't do it, and he's going to take the whole race down to another level.
He did have Hillary Clinton. Remember in the debate, he said, you'd be in jail. And people went berserk. That was a line. Right. Lock her up. Lock her up. It started to go around the rallies. I mean, he's got the mind.
Remember, I wanted her locked up, and I'm mad that he didn't go after her with the Justice Department because she was guilty.
Right.
But at the time, maybe people don't care what happens really, but I wanted her locked up. I'm not joking. Hillary Clinton should be locked up. I mean, she's a criminal. She obviously hid the anyway. But forget about her. She's hopefully not ever showing up again.
So last question. I know we said, and then I want to get to the stock market because that's the big talk of the day. If you're Trump, do you debate Harris or not? How do you change this? Because it seems like the mainstream liberal media is really pumping up the weird thing as far as the Vance, and the Trump campaign is just struggling with Harris, whereas Biden, they had, easy pickings, which they should have with Harris too. How do you change the narrative here, Steve?
Well, we talked about a dozen ways to change it, but the one about the debate, I think he's correct because now it won't be a great debate for him on a left-wing station. He didn't care the first time because he knew Biden couldn't do it. He didn't care. He wanted to get up on the stage. So he only agreed to debate Biden. If I were him, I'd throw it back to the election commission again. I wouldn't agree to anything Harris wants to do at all. She has to debate him. So she
won't go on Fox. She wants him to go on ABC. He won't do that because they'll put George Stephanopoulos, which is a Clinton stooge. Right. And he wants her to go on Fox, and she won't do that. Which the people that they're putting on Fox, again, maybe they're conservative, maybe they're moderate. Brett Beer and Martha, whatever the heck her name is, they're very balanced people. This is not like some kind of Sean Hannity show that's just going on.
But I would predict Trump is saying Fox because he knows it's going to be something in between.
Right.
In my opinion. Now,
that's fair, though.
Yeah, he should go for 2 debates, one on foreign policy and one on whatever. He should try to do 2. And he should set more rules for himself that ones he wants. Because with Biden, he just didn't care. He just knew, and I said he knew, and I said, listen, if you show up anywhere and someone says, listen, can you put your hands behind your back and let's blah blah blah, and the guy says sure. Well, that he's dealing with a paraplegic, like it doesn't matter, right? So in Trump's case, he knew he was dealing with a man who mentally couldn't debate for half an hour, hour and a half, 10 minutes. So he did whatever because he was like, yeah, let's go. And that helped him with momentum. I'll debate him anywhere, anytime. He should change it up with Kamala Harris, maybe go for 2 debates, maybe set some more ground rules, maybe even go back to the commission that does it that they got away from so it looks fair. People like commissions, you know. I think, but I don't know if he'll do any of that. I just don't. I don't know. I don't
But
know.
if
We
you
don't
were on
know.
the campaign, you would push him toward that then.
I
Two
would push him to
debates.
go for 2 debates, settle for one on different topics. I would still have him shut off the mic, even though he wouldn't like that because it benefits him. And I would say, Mr. President, shutting off the mic, look what happened. It benefits you. You don't look like a crazy dude yelling and screaming and walking around. You look you look semi-normal. So and you can sit there and nod and whatever. And I think he can win. I actually think if I was with him for a week, I think he could win the debates. Now, the governor of North Dakota will be with him for a week and other people, but they're not that exciting, you know? So he needs someone with him for a week to really get ready. Whether he ever gets ready, I don't know. But I think there will be debates. I just think Trump will smartly negotiate them better.